Hi, Jill. It's Margie with Basmati. How are you?
Hi, Margie. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for taking the
Good.
time to chat with us today, all the way from Germany.
Oh, thank you. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you so much. So today we're
It's
talking.
nighttime here.
I know, and you're with that full moon, so it's amazing. We're
Yes.
both in the light right now.
All right.
Today we're speaking with Jyl Auxter. She's with JylAuxter.com. It's JyLauxter.com. And she's going to share with us a little bit about her personal journey and some of the work she does. Okay, Jill, let's go.
Great. Let's go. Well, I'll tell you, Margie, I started my journey off pretty young. I can remember, some kids will have imaginary friends. I had a force of energy around me. And I think my mother also saw at a very young age what was happening. Actually, she sent me over to sit with a dying girl. And when I came back, we never talked about the experience. But, when I went to sit with this girl, I felt the force that I'm talking about come through me and really help this girl transition. So I knew quite young that this was good. But, at that day, when I was brought up, you didn't talk about psychics or, any kind of hearing voices or feeling spirits. You just didn't talk about this. So I had an aunt that was, went to an institution and was given electric treatment. So, we just kept it quiet until I went to California now. California was I went from a black and white existence to a color, and I met all these great people who were similar to me in their abilities, and I met a psychologist who was a mystic, and at that time I started to study for my master's PhD in psychology, and so I was clipping right along, and then all of a sudden I had a spiritual emergency, or what the shamans call the birth of the healer. And then from that time on, I've been doing healing work and really kind of enjoying it. It's no one signs up for this. You don't you don't wish this upon anyone. But when it finds you, and then you just have to heed the call. So,
would you mind sharing a little bit about your experience into being birthed into a healer? Like what that.
Sure. I had several situations that, death of a friend. I was in a lawsuit with a very famous person. I had what my work was stressful, and it was time for me to step into my my dharma, so to speak. And life came crashing down, and then I just went to the hospital or doctors, and it had to be cancer or something, and a book fell off the shelf, and it said, heal yourself, and I started to change everything in my life, and shortly after, everything went away. Lumps went away. I got my energy back. And then for typical gifted healers, we have to go through this, emergency, because that teaches us what we actually offer other people.
Yes.
So for me, I am very, very sensitive to people. I feel I'm an empath, but I also hear voices, and I also am clairvoyant. But the best client for me to work with are people who are also going through this crisis or this spiritual emergency. Somebody who, really is struggling with addiction or a disease or death. I do really well with those types of people. People who are dabbling in psychics, for a little quick reading about their future. And I'm not the best person for that. I'm better when people are looking at shifting their consciousness to more of a core level. Yeah.
So what does it look like when someone's working with you? I know that you can do remote sessions, but let's share a little bit about what that looks like for someone walking in.
Remote, or I also am in person. So I meet with people in person. But remote, I find, interesting enough, I actually am able to get more from my client. And I, connect with their energy. And I have I don't do by the hour or, you pay 30 minutes or an hour. You just pay for a healing with me, and I may go in 3 or 4 times until I get the energy to shift. But what happens is, and this is typical, if I have a new client especially, I'll be awakened at 4 o'clock in the morning with pain all over. It's the specific pain that my client will come in the next day. And so I go to my yoga mat. I do some kriyas and some breathing and moving to figure out how I can get rid of the pain. And then sure enough, when the client comes in, I feel them. That's the exact issues they're working on. And now I have a whole protocol of at least breath work and usually diet and so forth that I can work off of to help these people immediately feel better. So, but my remote is, but if I'm here when I'm just doing remote, I also write up a huge, like a health profile, and I send it to them in the email, and then we discuss it on Skype. So they have a real, they have a time to really digest it in an email, and then I can really just talk with them in person to answer any questions. But like I said, usually people are going through a real transitional time in their life. And they find me.
I have a fond appreciation and that you bring in the food, the breath work, maybe even seeing yoga, but also while you're doing the healing work, teaching them some self-responsibility and ways to heal their body on their own while they're at home, away from you, and food and breathing and meditation. The spiritual practice is always the last. The meditation is people don't understand why that's so important, why it's so important to go from an ego-based situation to a more soul nature living experience. And many of them fight me with it. They can't understand why that's part of my program. But I've always been very spiritual, and my take is always from how can you become, you incarnate to evolve. That's your whole reason for being here. And so let's look at what you can do to create a spiritual program, and meditation is usually part of that. Yes, it is. So let's go into this, the conscious cooking and conscious parties. I'm really excited about that.
I wrote a series of fun little girlfriend books there. And the last of the conscious series is called Conscious Love.
Oh.
Seven relationship truths for a modern world. And they're just teeny tiny little books, great for purse, in your purse for an airplane ride. And it was kind of an innocent way of me trying to talk about consciousness in a kind of an offhanded way, kind of subtly bringing it through, whether it's dinner parties with girlfriends or afternoon tea parties with new friends. And they all have food. Each book has, I talk about the esoteric, about different aspects of the soul nature, things that we don't get to talk about as girlfriends usually. And then I have food menus, and then I have kriyas, breathing, how to move and shift energy in the body, and they're very playful, very sweet, and I'm excited about the new one coming out on love.
Oh, me too. I'm very excited about that. And the recipes look fantastic, by the way. I'm a big love food and love cooking, and so it's, as you and I have chatted before, healthy, yummy food, consciously good food for you that you're putting in your body can be delicious. And
it makes you feel so much better.
Yes. And there's something that happens, at least in my experience, where I'm eating it, and not only does the texture amazing, and it smell good, and it look good, and it tastes just like just so yummy, but my body, when it's taking it in, is celebrating, it's celebrating for being honored, and honored with stuff that's really good for you, right? And connected.
Right.
Well, I think that that's really where we are today with so many diseases, cancer being one that comes to mind, that the body becomes so congested with bad food, with GMO food, with processed foods, and what, it's one of the biggest conversations I have with clients that are coming off of cancer, whether they're coming to me first or I get them after they go through conventional care, is the diet. I mean, people don't have a real understanding of what it means to eat right and to feel good in their bodies. But it's really important that we have good food to offer, because there are some places in the United States, believe it or not, that don't have a lot of organic. And,
I know.
Living in Europe, we don't have GMO foods, but in the U.S., it's a real struggle.
It is a big struggle.
I try to be very, I don't eat anything but organic, and I have my clients only look at organic food to put in their mouths and feel better.
Yeah. And it is extremely important. I can't emphasize that enough, actually. It's very, very, very important. We could delve into that and go into it. We could do a series on that one day if you want, Jyl.
Well, I think so. It's interesting because I've gone from eating only raw and being vegan and in my yogi days, and then I came to Europe and I've just eaten myself into. I've eaten the croissants in France and loved the foie gras. I've just eaten myself into a tizzy, but now I've gotten back to plant-based, and I'll tell you, plant-based is always the best option, especially for saving the planet right now. It's the best to keep your body finely tuned, especially if you're working with disease. So my work kind of pulls it all together. When I talk about diet, I talk about emotions, I talk about spirituality with my clients, and helping them get a kind of carving out a new lifestyle for themselves.
Yes. And I'm going to, one other quick question. Tell me about Metaplation. Love the name.
Metaplations came, actually my husband thought of that name. It's a book that I wrote called Get High on a Higher Vibration, and it's for addiction, actually. And each metaplation is set up, it's a breathing techniques, and they help you get over any kind of addiction that you're working on, starting with, alcohol or, cocaine, pot, or marijuana. It's a great little book. It also helps you. It talks about cleansing, detoxing, so that coming off an addiction is a little bit easier. But the kriyas themselves, or the metaplation, is really what helps a person shift, and it's easier to become healthy and balanced again.
Oh, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. I love that you bring up the kriyas every time, and how important that is, even if it's subtly that you're just sharing it, but it is. And I noticed that with your yoga, you do a variety of, you've blended. You've taken some traditions, right? And
yes,
worked them together.
I've been on this planet for a while. I'm 61. I've studied with many masters. I've studied many practices and all different styles, and I believe yoga is a spiritual ritual, and I believe that it's here to teach us enlightenment. It's not to help our abs look stronger, although it does. But I believe yoga really is key to being balanced, or finding a balance. And for me, I've used it in my own life. I used to be a marathon runner and just crazy addicted to running, and yoga was the only thing that got me off of it. And yoga is not addictive like that. It's more balancing. So right away, I tell my clients, this is just, you don't have to do yoga, but definitely get into some kind of breathing ritual or routine. And just as you get older now, at 61, it's yoga every day. I don't miss a day. Yeah. And I feel healthy, and I swear by it.
You are healthy. Is there anything else you'd like to share with everyone listening?
No, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity, Margie, and I look forward to writing some articles for your website. It's a gorgeous opportunity for for me to do some writing or some. I love that people can go to your site and access healers because we're just waiting. We're waiting to help people. That's for sure.
And we're waiting.
So thank you.
The world is waiting for you and everyone to get out there, raise up your hands, and go, let's do this. Let's do it now. All right?
That's right. That's right.
Jyl, thank you again for taking the time to be with us today.
Thanks, Margie.
You have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much. You
You're
too.
welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.